Good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Justice, Live Your Rights. This is a radio program brought to you by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as the GCIS, the Government Communication and Information System, and also the National Prosecuting Authority. This today is our last program for this year, and this evening we'll be discussing the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex. In short, we normally would say LGBTI. Le perile di matekwana ra le dumedisa go gotlhe le kaetsang le kwa teng re lebogela thetso ya gago mo letsatsing la gompieno. As you know, you are able to call us on 0800-142-446. You are able to interact with us as well on Twitter, which is at DOJCD_ZA. You can also engage us under the Facebook page, which is the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Also on Instagram, we are at DOJCD. On Instagram, it's at DOJCD. Good evening once more, and thanks for your listening. And as I have mentioned, that we will be talking about the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons' rights. And as you might know, if you don't know, let me tell you that in March 2011, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development mandated the establishment of the National Task Team to develop a national intervention strategy that will address some of these issues, including homophobic rape, including the rights to adopt, including various rights interventions for the LGBTI people. Now, today, on this last show of the year, we are joined by the ever reliable Mr. Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mr. John Jeffrey. Mr. Jeffrey, welcome again.
Thanks very much, and good evening to everyone listening.
All right. And maybe without getting too elaborative on the topic, let's just talk also about this National Task Team that was established in March 2011. Mm-hmm. How did it come about? What is the background? And what was the whole issue behind establishing it?
Look, it was before my time, before my appointment, but from what I understand is there were approaches to the then Minister of Justice, Jeff Radebe, from particularly lesbian organizations relating or raising concerns about the high number of attacks, particularly on lesbian women, the so-called corrective rape,
yes.
Where lesbian women were being raped by men who wanted through that rape to, or ostensibly through that rape, wanted to make them like men.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an appeal for government to do something. This National Task Team was then established, which is a comprised of government and civil society, and its task, as you've said, was to come up with an intervention strategy on LGBTI issues and to look at particularly what could be done with the criminal justice system to ensure enough and proper attention to those cases.
Yes. Now, the composition of the National Intervention Task Team itself, can you take us through that?
Okay, it's National Task Team, and it then came up with a National Intervention Strategy. So
that's right.
That's the
Thank you
issue.
for correcting that.
Look, obviously, Justice as the lead department, chaired by the Department of Justice, and then co-chaired by civil society, other people from the Justice family, National Prosecuting Authority, Legal Aid South Africa, the police, social development, health, basic education, correctional services, GCIS,
yes.
And then from the Chapter 9's Human Rights Commission, Commission for Gender Equality, and from civil society, a number of organizations, Human Rights Watch, Out, LGBT Wellbeing, Gala, Forum for the Empowerment of Women, the Triangle Project, amongst many others. Mm-hmm. It's being expanded from government's point of view, so with the recent inclusion of social development, correctional services, cooperative governance, and traditional affairs.
Yes. All right. You can call us on 0800 142 446. My name is Musoto Stone. Today, we will be talking together. Ogabua ka Setswana, ogabua ka siZulu, ungakhuluma ngesiZulu. Bakwamba ka Chivenda, ogabua ka nngwe le nngwe ya tsona tsa mo South Africa, the languages. 0800 142 446. Are you having a kid, or are you somebody who actually find it difficult to relate to your community simply because of your sexual orientation? Talk to us. What are your experiences? 0800 142 446. Otherwise, if you are a social media junkie, you can get us on Facebook, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. You can leave your message over there, as well as on Twitter. It's at DOJCD_ZA, or you can also use Instagram at DOJCD. And did you know that the Constitution lays the basis of the construction of democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous society based on justice, equality, the rule of law, and the inalienable human rights of all? Now, Mr. Jeffrey, I just want to find out here, are these specialized rights? Can we compare them to women's rights? Can we compare? Is it a general human rights issue, or is this specialized to specific people, as we are saying, as the name is suggesting?
No, it's general human rights. It's the right to equality in the Constitution, which applies to everybody.
Yes.
And there's a list in the relevant section in the Constitution. I think it's section 9.3, I think, that, it's the equality clause. Everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. The state may not, under 9.3, unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on one or more grounds. And then there's a list. So it's race, gender, sex, pregnancy, marital status, ethnic or social origin, color, and then this is where it comes in, sexual orientation. And then age, disability, religious conscience, belief, culture, language, and birth. And so that's, the state can't do that. And then there's under 4, no person, so any other person, not just the state, may unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on the grounds that were listed above. So sexual orientation, the right of equality as far as your sexual orientation, and the fact that you can't be discriminated against on the basis of your sexual orientation,
yes,
is one of the grounds amongst many in the Constitution that is prohibited.
That's right. Now, in my mind, there's quite a lot of religious beliefs around these rights. There's also the traditional issue that comes through to say, some of the people will even say, in Africa originally there were no bisexuals, there were no gays and all that. The conflict behind traditional outlook as well as the religious outlook versus the law?
Look, that's a more difficult question in terms of people's religious beliefs. Let's start with religion. But I think the bottom line is that we are all, or gay rights are human rights.
Yes.
People don't necessarily have a choice about their sexual orientation, and we must be tolerant. We must allow people to be.
Yes.
So some people are of a particular religion. Some people like certain things, and some people have different sexual orientation. So the key thing is let's allow other people to be who they are and what they are.
Yeah.
I think a sort of funny way of putting it would be, if you don't believe in gay marriage, then don't marry a gay person, but leave gay people to marry if they want to.
That's right.
And then also, look, from religions are different, but it's not really the place to get onto religious debates, but there have been changes in terms of the attitude to gay and lesbian people from, say, organized religion, particularly Christianity. just as there have been changes in terms of the way religions perceive, or particularly Christianity perceives, the position of women. 100, 200 years ago, the Christian church would have told you a particular thing about women.
Yes.
There are verses in the Bible relating to that men shouldn't have sex with each other, but there are also verses in the Bible about a whole range of things that we don't do anymore.
Yes, that's true.
So that's to be looked at. Traditionally, look, I mean, that's another debate, but I think that the bottom line is that every society has people who are gay or lesbian. It's just a question of whether they are forced to conceal it or not.
Yeah, because I'm asking this because, for instance, communities who are practicing, say, going to the mountain. Now, here's this guy. He's a very traditional African man coming from a particular tribe. He's supposed to be going to the mountain with the other boys. And all of a sudden, just because he behaves in a very awkward, I'm going to, for lack of a better word, in a bit of an awkward manner towards the norm of the society, then he is denied such kind of opportunity to become, to go and probably do all the rituals that are required by that particular tribe. Now, how does this law enforce his right to participate in that?
Well, it's the Constitution, and it would be that you can't discriminate against anybody. So he would have a basis for saying he shouldn't be discriminated against. I'm not too sure of what happens I would imagine that many gay men participate in initiation rituals. The type you're probably talking about would be a person who's more effeminate.
Yes.
But so I think it's more how they project themselves rather than what their sexual orientation is. And yeah, he would, in terms of the Constitution, be able to argue that he should have the right to undergo initiation. That's if he wants to. The avenue for taking up violations of the Equality Clause is the Equality Court.
Yes.
So the thing could be argued there in theory. Obviously, because it's traditional, it might be more difficult. But I think the key aspect that we need to promote is that as human beings, we're all different. And we need to be allowed to be different, as long as it doesn't hurt other people.
All rights are human rights. I think that's what the DM is trying to say and trying to emphasize. The more I keep on asking that question, the more it keeps on prevailing that all human rights are human rights. All rights are human rights, for instance. All right, let's go to Limpopo. Thobela re gona le kae ntate a o a re tlotse ntate bolela le rena ntate
ke bonana le lena ke lebeletse taba ya lekgono ya letšatši le beileng tafoleng
ntate
ke taba ya tekatekanyo ya batho ba di-LGBTI, the gay, lesbian, transgender and the likes.
That's right.
Gore batho ba bangwe ba kgethollwa kudu mo setšhabeng ba be ba kgethollwa ebile ba nyefolwa mara ka baka la gore freedom ye re humaneng since 1994 o bile le ke bitse phetogonyana gannyane le le gore ba bangwe ba tsantse ba ba nyefola ba ba tia jone ka ba bona jone ka ditlhola yona ga yona ke bona ka re change ebile ya rena le mo le tsetse ya ke le janye e kgonne go ba le program ya nngwe ya go hira go ba go tshwana di-LGBTI e le gore e le reka ke program ya high transmission area e ba hira e le ba tshwaile gore ka baka ba kgona go recognize e le reka go tswanya ka di population jwale ke radio station ya Moleki FM ke yona ke gona go bona gore tekatekanye e na le yona a ena ya mane wa thega
Our Lebohanta Telesija Ganete if Moleki FM is actually playing the part in this. A gona le sengwe gape se no batla o tlatsa ka sona nda.
Se ke ra go ka sona ke gore Moleki FM ka go program e tshwereng ka ona ka re ka ba ya fumana batho ba gona go ikgetheletsa ka tsela ya mashedi ya gore re kgone go fumana batho ba bangwe ba gona go reka ba dira program ya le ka ke program e botikudu e ile gona le go le mosha batho ka kotsi ya dithomanano tse di sa bolokegang le tse le go sima gareng ga ba bo
anda
Transgender
Awa re lebogile ntate Lesija re lebogela le yona Moleki FM to take an initiative to do a program that actually focusing on empower DM his Lesija he's listening to one of the radio stations in Limpopo, and he's saying they do have a program that actually encourage people to tolerate LGBTI persons, as well as there is no question per se, but he's just saying he is quite very appreciating that the law is actually taking this quite very seriously, and they would also like to engage even more in the future to make sure that there is more awareness with regards to the tolerance towards LGBTI people. Okay, we're moving to Mpumalanga in Kanyamazani, and I hear myself in the background. While I'm still talking, I'm gonna ask him to just switch off your radio before we talk. Defender? Ninjani Defender? Awusiyaphila ucimile umsakazo wakho ba?
Ngiphumile.
Okay, ngiyabonga. Singakhuluma ba?
Yes, ngilalela through Kanyamazana Community Radio. Ngifuna ukubuza ukuthi uma ubuka mhlambe ama rights, especially in terms of gays and lesbians. Now uma ubuka ukuthi in terms of in the public sector kuyabonakala ukwendekani, but how do they enforce those rights in terms of private companies, because of now uthola abantu khona baba discriminated being a gay or a lesbian? How are they being enforced in private companies? And number two, how do you strike the balance between the constitution as well as culture? Because kuvame kuba ne-clash kana lapha. I don't know whether we should be able to get an answer to say how to strike the balance between the two, because we've got the constitution, we've got culture on the other side.
Yes. Kilebogile Defender. All right, thanks. Defender is calling from one of the Mpumalanga stations. You got his DM? You can
look, you can't. I mean, it's the same as any other ground of discrimination. So if a company, a shop, a restaurant says, look, we can't allow you in because you're black or you're Tsonga speaking, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. That's against the law. So it's the same as if they say, well, you can't have our services, you can't come in because you're gay. The remedy in all cases with equality matters is the equality court, and that's basically any magistrate's court. It's also high courts, but the magistrate's courts are easier, more accessible. A case can be taken to any magistrate's court against the private company or the individual who has refused you access. Or discriminated against you. So that's effectively the remedy. The court would then come up with a ruling which the person would have to follow. Otherwise, they would be subject to penalties by the court.
All right.
On the second issue, look, the whole even tradition and culture are subject to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Obviously, when it comes to gender issues, there's things become a bit more complicated, but ultimately, you cannot discriminate against women. I'm not sure. I mean, from engagements or interactions with traditional leaders, often traditional leaders will say, well, we don't know, we don't discriminate against LGBTI people because from a cultural perspective, we don't know of it.
Yes.
And that would really be the issue. But the bottom line is, I think, educating people. But LGBTI people are people.
Yes.
And why must they be discriminated against? The same as why must any other person, short people, must they be discriminated against? And that's the way we need to look at it.
Exactly. 26 minutes after 6. Are you gay? Are you lesbian? Are you bisexual? Are you having any negative experiences in your community? Positive experiences as well. Tell us about it. And how do you go about your daily life? Call us on 0800 142 446, 0800 142 446. My name is Mosoto Stone. Up until 5 minutes past 7 on this last episode of 2015. DOJ, Let's Talk Justice, is not going anywhere. Next year, starting from the 14th of January 2016, we will be resuming everything again, and we talk justice and how effective it is in South Africa. We have various officials coming from the Department of Justice, from the National Prosecution Authority, to come and tackle various issues, various topics, various experiences that people are living on a daily basis that are relating to the law. And then, DM, you see the actioning of the law. I'm going to ask that, how close do you work with police on this one? I would ask that based on the fact that in rural areas, there's not too many courts. You got to go to a city, you get to go to a main town for you to be able to fight for your rights when it comes to such kind of things, and also when it comes to such kind of experiences with the communities. Now, how close do you work with the police? Because there are cases where you find that an LGBTI person goes and report a case only to be laughed at by the police, only to be not to be taken seriously. How close do you does the DOJ works with the police in terms of implementation?
Well, on two levels. One, the police are part of the National Task Team, so they're very, very much part of the activities, and those activities are trying to ensure that all police people are understand that LGBTI people are also people and need to be helped equally.
Yes, sir.
Then the other element is there's what's called a rapid response team to try and monitor LGBTI or cases against LGBTI people, precisely because of that problem where the case may not be investigated properly because the police person it's reported to thinks that the person, the woman, lesbian woman, let's say, asked for it because she's lesbian. And the issue of the rapid response team is to monitor those cases through the criminal justice system. So it's on that dual level.
Yes.
Just to say that at the national task team is replicated, there's a provincial task team in each province, and the idea is also to replicate the rapid response team at a provincial level to ensure provincial monitoring of those cases against LGBTI people as the victims.
All right. Maybe you are an ordinary person. You find it difficult to live with LGBTI persons. Call us. Be brave enough to call us. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you feel. Because at the end of the day, the Constitution provides for everybody to live and tolerate each other. So tell us, what can you not tolerate about them? Why are you not treating them as equal as you? As a traditional person, as a religious person, as a person of any kind of outlook. Talk to us, 0800 142 446. Mosoto Stone is not the one who will be answering your calls, but Linda Mazibuko, who is our telephone producer tonight, will be able to speak to you and take you through into the studios. Also, if you have social media, you can connect with us on Facebook page, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as on Twitter at DOJCD_ZA. Gape on Instagram ungaxhumana nathi at DOJCD. 30 minutes after 6, let me go to Klerksdorp in Northwest. Re bua le Tshepo. Morana Tshepo,
ntate tone dumela
re tswile le ka ntate.
ntate re phetse
A o wanke bo utlwile.
bua le Tshepo re itse Life FM mo Klerksdorp
Ke a itumela Morana Tshepo.
ntate
Bua le rona ntate.
ntate potso ya ka ke ena potso ga ke gatla go tle bua ka di-right wa bona
Yes.
o mo lo mo na di-right
Nnete.
and then ha ke go tla go tlhaloganya fela tse bona mo ntlong ya di-gay le di-lesbian le tse kaofela a re bue ka batho like mo di-company tse ngata go ba le toilet o thola gore ke toilet ya bontate le ya bomme ha e le toilet ya bontate le ba ya bomme ke le ntate ke ne mo toilet ga ona ga gore ke tlo ba uncomfortable di-right tsa ka tla bo di gataka kiwa le nna ke le ntate ke le mo toileteng ha ke le mo toileteng o mongwe a ba tsena o le gaetse then le nna di-right tsa ka di gataka kiwa ka tsela e o le mo toilet then go tsena o mongwe mara le ka tsela eno wa itse gore nakong ga o le ntate o tswa mole nakong o na le go itukisa fela re bontate re otlhe mole or le mo di-showereng wa itse mo di-showereng tsa bontate ga o nagane gore o mongwe a ba tsena mo o sa tshwaneng ka bongwe and then di-right tsa ka di tla di gatagakile mo ba mare e shebe di-right tsa gona ga gona di-showera tsa bontate le ke tsa bontate ka mo ke tsa bomme ka mo jale ke tlo shawara le motho o mongwe tlabe ke tswa maybe mo gyming ke tswa mo gyming ke tswa go shawara ga ke tswa mo gyming ke ke le yalo go tsena o mongwe ka tsela o re fapaneng then go tla ba sa gataka ka di-right tsa ka nna ke le ntate and then potso ya bobedi e be nna e le bua ka yone ya ko thabeng
Era.
ke bona ga e ta gona go thabeng ka lebaka la seno ba tsena mo kganyeng le teng kganyeng le sa di-right tsa gore a ke ka ba bangwe ga bana if o fetsa le gore ba tle go ya o tle go fetsa a ile ko le batho ba bangwe di-right tsa gagwe ga ene di gataka ke bona ga no gore mongwe di tata tsa gagwe ka go tlhaena le di-right ba le di-right di gena di right le ba le straight ba le di-right so ya no a bona di-right botlhe o molomo a ka sheba di-right tse di tse saiteng ya bona a shebe botlhe o molo o na eno a right tsa gagwe tse tla o di sa gataka ke ba tlhaloganya sentle
Ke go tlhalogantse le tota Morena Tshepo. Ke go utlwile le tota a re utlwa gore deputy minister o tla reng ka yona.
ntate
Ke lebogile Morena. And we're still in Northwest in Potchefstroom. We're talking to Zex. Hello Zex. Hello Zex.
Dumela
Le kae Morena Zex?
re tseng khonna le kae
A wa re tsogile Morena.
ke founa ke le mo bokone bophirima mo ka motla ga ganang radio local
Province ya Platinum. Rra.
Gontse jalo
Go ka tlhama lo.
nkgonne a complain ke batla go itse gore this LGBTI tsena batho bana ba gaetsho bana nna ga ke discriminate against bone kgotsa ke kgetholle mo go bone mara fela ke batla go itse gore why e ka re ka morago ga 1994 ba ile ba nna bantsinyana ba bonagala sentle ba le bantsi thata ba praya mongwe ka nako ewa bane e le gore bane ba e ka re ga ba conspicuous thata a ke itse gore apartheid le constitution e ntšha ka gore 1994 le puso e ntšha a ke yone ile ya dira yalo gore ba nne free di-right tsa bone di ska di gatakelwa mara gone ha ile gore di gatakelwa ka tsela e ntseng jang ka nako ya ha ile gore ka prior 1994
Yeah. Ke a utlwa Morena Zex. Is there anything else?
No, well, ke nagana gore ke se ke batla go se botsa ke batla go itse gore na a go tle go kgonega na ka ke go kry le gore ba bangwe ke ba na le boleng ba bonna.
Yes.
Marianong a kry anong bone ke banna Marianong ditiro tsa bone ba di ela go sesadine.
Yes.
Yaanong a nkitla go nna a kry economy ya ge a wa go godimo thata a re ba direla di-toilet kgotsa go te ba tsene mo basading a go tla kgonega na.
Okay, ke utlwile ntate.
ke lebogile.
Ke lebogile thata. Thank you very much to Tsepo and to Zakes. Tsepo is from Klerksdorp in Northwest, as well as Zakes from Potchefstroom in Northwest. And DM, Tsepo is saying, basically what Tsepo and Zakes asked, his last question is that now that we are so advanced, we are since 1994, we have this advanced and understanding. Why can't we have facilities for LGBTI people? Because I'll tell you what, Tsepo was saying, here am I at the club, I'm a guy, and here I am sitting here relieving myself, and here comes this gay guy. All of a sudden I get disturbed because he's looking at me in this funny eye, and now disturbing my rights as a guy not to be looked at that funny by another guy. Now, is there a possibility to actually look into making facilities to accommodate each other? Especially now, he was also using the traditional example I used about initiation to say a lesbian lady who feels like a man wants to go to initiation. Now, they look at him as a lady. And the guys, as we know very well, that there's quite a lot of secrecy surrounding how things are being done at the initiation, and not many people should be knowing about it, particularly if it's people of female orientation. Now, is it possible to be segregating people, establishing new buildings, toilets, gyms, just for LGBTI?
Look, I think the bottom line is we need to be respectful of each other. And you will find, I mean, it's more men who check out women.
Yes.
You will find many women who complain that they don't like men looking at them as though they're sex objects.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, they feel they're a lot more. They're a person. They've got brains. They've got all kinds of things. But this guy will look at them as though he just wants to do one thing with them,
like a piece of meat.
Like a piece of meat.
Yes.
So I think it applies across the board. We should not. We need to be respectful of each other. Obviously, it's wrong to yes. A man who's attracted to other men may then have the opportunity to see men naked in the gym showers, but that guy shouldn't be checking people out. He needs to be respectful. I think it's a question of we've all got to learn how to live with each other. On the issue of a lesbian woman wanting to go to initiation, well, I wonder if it's ever happened. But I mean, in terms of yes, you said that the secrecy around what happens there, but certain things get cut, and if you don't have those things to get cut, then I'm not sure what you do there.
There's an issue of mutilation of private parts that we know.
But so I would be surprised if any lesbian woman would want to go. It would be interesting to hear from listeners whether they know of such a case.
Call us 0800 142 446. I would really like to hear from people from Taung, because there was one big story where one poor guy was actually killed very brutally. And I would really like to hear from the Taung people who actually know about the story to tell us more in terms of how is their outlook in their communities after that particular brutal story. Valta FM, they are listening, and I would really like to hear. It's for free, and if you are using your cell phone, Mr. Linda Mazibuko, who's our telephone producer today, will be able to call us. Now, let's move again to Limpopo. Seems like Limpopo is actually taking this quite very seriously. Maria?
Yeah.
Maria?
Hello.
Lekayos, Maria?
Rona ni kae?
Awaron. Bulala le rena usi.
Okay, na ke bulela ka issue ya LGBTI.
Yes.
Because the community in a problem when it comes to LGBTI. Aba khona uri ba ka amogela. because ba bangwe ba bolela ka boloi, ba bangwe ba bolela gore ba itirisha la bona. So that's why it have a problem, and le ga go ba le di program ke le gore di teacher batho ka this thing, batho ba no ba ignorant. Ba no ba ignorant ba nya kutla di programong tsewe gore ba tle ba tsebe ga botse gore batho ba ke bana ba borena ke bana ba rena sentse re accept mo community. E ba taba ya botlhoko because re bereka le bona re phela le bona sentse re ba amogele. So no krea e ba le ditaba o kry le gore batho ba no bolela dilo tse di negative ka bona, and no khumana ile gore motho o bolela bete ka motho a dikile yena gona mo ya to mo ga responda ya ba gore motho la ba le bad attitude more especially di gay. O kra ba di gay a dina megwa because re wena o bolela negative ka motho le yena o tlo iphetolela ke ga thoma o iphetolela, and then ya ba gore taba ya gore di gay di jong mola ile gore sentse re ba amogele re ba tsore ke bana ba borena sentse re phele le bona.
That's right.
So nna be ke tsa kore ye ke ratang gore ka dira go ke di program gantsi re be le bona re tsebe gore na ba phela jwang ba nya ka eng a ba nya ke eng, so that re kgone go phela le bona because ba gona. And since ba ke tsweletsa this days ba ke tsweletsa ba bontsha bolela gore I'm a gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm a bisexual. So re ba thoma ke tsweletsa community a re ba amogele ba abuseiwa ge ba tšhaba le yo reporta di police station because le ge ba fitlhagana kwa ba discriminate maphodisa a ba tšee serious ka bona ba di tšee serious.
All right. O no ba tlo tswela pele ma?
No, be ke no rata go no re we as the community re sentse re tsebe gore LGBTI is here and it's here to stay. A gona ka mogolo re ka tla ra ignore ka gona this issue ke beng gona go re sentse re no ba accept re phile le bona ke bana ba borena.
Aus Maria re lebolegetse molaetsa wa gago wa thegwa dire.
Go leboganna.
Go lebogileng. It's 18 minutes before 7 o'clock. Remember, Mosotho Stone is actually speaking to the Deputy Minister of Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mr. John Jeffrey, who is taking us through the LGBTI rights. LGBTI being lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons. Ke batho ba ileng gore re phela le bona mo maphelong a rona on a day-to-day basis. Tell me any of the areas in South Africa that does not have either a gay person or either a lesbian or a bisexual or a transgendered person or maybe an intersex person. But anyway, let me pose this one. But before you answer it, DM, they're saying since after 1994, our constitution seemed to have allowed quite a lot of things where all of a sudden people start coming out of the closet. People started being so visible. And somebody was saying, wasn't it created by the very same constitution that was done? But before you answer that, let's go to KZN first. Mama Pida from Howick. Ninjani ma'am? Siyapila ma.
Yebo.
Usfonela use Howick.
Yes, ngise Howick.
Okay. Sicela ukhulume nathi ma.
Yebo ngiyabonga ngilalele i-Steph Radio Crazy. Transcope.
Siyabonga ku Radio Crazy.
Yes. Engingakusho nje mina njenganami. Mina angivumelani kakhulu nje nalendaba yama-gay nama-lesbian. Ngoba according iBhayibheli lithi enene uNkulunkulu esikhathi edala wadala umuntu wesilisa wadala umuntu wesifazane. So uma umama eyobeletha uthi nengabe ebuzwa ubaba uthole umntwana munye athi ngithole umfana noma athi ngithole intombazane. So akukho la sithola khona umama mesesibhedlela athi ngithole umuntu wesithathu like i-gay noma i-lesbian. So mina ngikubuka nje lokhu kuyi-right nje banibeka ukuthi kuyi-right nje ekhona la emhlabeni. Ngibuka ukuthi kuyi-right ehlukumeza umuntu ngegender yakhe ngoba ayikho igender yesithathu. Mengabuza nje ukuba mhlawumbe ukhona lo wabeka lo mthetho noma le right le ukuthi yena ngomthetho uyiyo yini i-gay noma uyi-lesbian noma emndenini wakhe kukhona yini okanjalo waqinisekisa kanjani ukuthi lo muntu ukanjalo because ngineqiniso futhi ngiqiniso ukuthi ngesikhathi umama ethola umntwana wathi intombazane wathi umfana akashongo ubulili besithathu so ngingaphinda nje ngiye nje laphaya ukuthi uNkulunkulu wayengeke abhubhise iSodoma neGomora ngenxa yentukuthelo yesono besiyenzeka lapha yamagays nama-lesbian ukube kuthiwa lento ikhona iyaphila wayengeke aze akwenze lokho kumntwana wakhe ngingasho nje ngithi mina ngike ngaxoxa nje nabanye ngike ngasebenza nabayi-2 emsebenzini omunye uthi efuna ukuthi bamantombazane uthi uma ngabe efuna ukuthi enze ubudlelwane nentombazane le enye ayibiza ngentombi yakhe uthi usebenzisa into eyi-toy like ezoba like ubulili bowesilisa manje engiyibuza khona ukuthi ngempela njengoba ngithi ngabahlukumezekile ngqondweni ukuthi lo wesifazane ngempela uthatha kanjani lokho kodwa kuthiwe ngayona into e-real kuthiwe kuyi-toy ukuthi akahlukumezeki ngisothi hayi nokuthi uyahlukumezeka kakhulu yes bagcilazekile nje bayamdinga nje kakhulu uNkulunkulu ukuthi abasize mina engingakusho ukuthi baye nje ezini lenkosi inkosi izobakhipha lokho kugcilazeka abagcilazeke kukho because usathane usebenzisa lento i-creator usathane ukuze adukise abantu ukuba bangali-understand iqiniso ngendaba ngiyabonga kakhulu
okay okay yikho lokho ufuna ukusho ma
yes yikho nje ebengithanda ukusho and ngempela mina angihambelani mina nje ingane yami nginamantombazana awu2 asamancane kodwa nje mengathi nje ngathi angangitshela ukuthi ayashintsha ngingabakhombisa kakhulu ikhadi lase-clinic ukuthi libhala ukuthini wena uzibona uyini and mina ngamshaya nje ngincama ukuboshwa futhi ngempela ngancama ukuboshwa mengabe kukhona ongangibophela leyo yinto mina ngazi kahle ukuthi ngizale intombazane angizalanga umuntu wesithathu uzobe uyashintsha futhi athi ngimfana kade eyintombazane enamabele enakho konke right abanye babukeka as if babafana abanye abanawo amabele but abanye banawo amabele ungazi ukuthi ingqondo isikuthi khubazekile ingakho ngithi ngisathane nje uba thuntu bezingqondo zabo
siyabonga ma sizozama ukuthi sikhulume kancane la siqashulule kancane ngiyabonga all right Dear, it's quite very complicated. I'm sure you heard that she does not actually agree with the whole concept based on the fact that, there's 2 genders, there's no third gender in the whole picture. And that's what we have been indoctrinated to actually understand, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, on the fact that there's no third gender, I mean, there are, I don't know the percentage, but there are people who are intersex.
Yes.
Who are born with characteristics of both sexes, I mean, biological characteristics. And that's the I in the LGBTI. And they're people who haven't chosen the way they were born.
Yes.
They were born like that. And the issue then is basically they have the right to choose whether they want to have operations to make them male or female, but they've also got the right to remain as they are. So if they don't want to change, that's their right.
Yes.
Who are we to tell them that you must do this or you must do that?
That's right.
So there is a third sex, as it were. And yes, it's not mentioned, I don't think, in the Bible, but the physical evidence is there. As I'd said earlier with the Bible, there's lots of verses. There are verses relating to particularly men having sex with men and the fact that it is bad. But in the Old Testament in particular, there's verses relating to a whole lot of other sins.
Exactly.
That people would never dream of following anymore. And then in the New Testament, there's also, I can't remember the exact verses, but there's criticism of women dressing up, making themselves beautiful.
Yes.
Which most women in society nowadays do not follow.
Yes, yes.
So I think we've got to see things in context, and the bottom line is, LGBTI people are generally born that way.
Yes.
Who are we to say you were born wrong?
Exactly.
That's basically the issue. As far as the question around, well, why were there so many people that sort of came out, as it were, after 94?
Yes.
I don't think the issue could be that it's the Constitution that made people gay or lesbian. I think people were, well, not I think, people were like that. The Constitution just gave people the freedom to express themselves.
Yes, yes. All right, it's only 9 minutes before 7 o'clock, and thank you for all the callers. We're trying to get our social media organized here because I want to actually express some of the opinions that are being portrayed on the social media. But anyway, call us on 0800 142 446, 0800 142 446. So that you are able to speak to us directly. You can speak in any of the South African languages. We do not discriminate. And also, if you are happening to be a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, let's hear from you, because it's not about talking about you today. It's about also engaging you and getting to be understood and getting to have a common ground. Rinele boagisani sikhona ukuthi siphile nabo emphakathini yethu. Call us on 0800 142 446. Simpiwe is gone, and we have Anonymous. We start with the Anonymous from South Africa. Anonymous from South Africa?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Ngiyaphila unjani?
Ngiyaphila siswami.
Yes.
Okay, ungakhuluma nami?
Yebo ngiyakhuluma.
Khuluma siswami.
Nginenkinga for ama-lesbian. Nginomntwana la oyintombazane eyami eyi-1.
Yes.
So ngithola lo mntwana oyintombazane, wathola umntwana, washona umntwana. Emveni kwalokho umntwana lo wabe esekhetha ukuthi nabe lesbian. So wathana nentombazane enye emsebenzini. Kwalokho semayisihlukana nentombazane. Ethe intombazane wasekhetha ukuyibulala. Okubuhlungu kakhulu oba nami ngagcina senihlukumezeka kaze ngahamba ama-social workers.
Bekathi uzibulalelani siswe?
Uthi intombazane isimalile.
Wow. Ucabanga ukuthi mhlambe bekamthanda to that point ukuthi angazibulala ngoba noma bekamthanda nje, and then what happened is ukuthi ufuna ukuzibulala because ugay or lesbian?
Wathena uyamthanda, so bake bahlala naye isikhathi eside behlala ndawonye. Bengahlali ngoba mina bengakhona understand lempilo yakhe akade yena. So bahlala lapho behlala khona samoya.
Okay.
Bengakhona ukwamukela ngoba mina nginabantwana abafana. Bengakhona ukwamukela. So ke useseba nenkinga ngaxoxisana nabo. Intombazane yajayisa amfoni, yona yayivele iyintombazane. So ke namanje ke sebehlukene, sephindile futhi kana namanye amantombazane. So lento inabazali isihlukumeza kakhulu. Lo mntwana bewumzalwane khonza. So manje usuyaphuza, uhambe ebusuku, ubuya ngesikhathi esithandayo, eyi-1 abantwana bamama amantombazane. Ihlukumezekile kakhulu ngoba ayisekho into neyodwa ayenza ekhaya. Isephila nje impilo lobulesibeni.
Okay ma. Yikho lokho ufuna ukusho?
Yeah.
Okay. Ngiyabonga ma.
Yeah.
All right. Quite a very sad story, dear. The kid had a child at some point, and the child passed on, and from there on, the lady feels like all of a sudden everything changed. She just made a choice rather than exist as an original person that she was, and then got into a relationship at work where the relationship soured at some point, and then all of a sudden she was on this suicidal mode. And I was asking her, did she think that the suicidal mode was based on her being lesbian? And she's like, no, she doesn't doubt, but I think it's more of being able to tolerate based on understanding, DM. Basically. But anyway, when we move on to the social media network, Khalari, the portable Wagamagua, listening via Sikukuni Community Radio, that should be in Jane First area, Groblersdal, and all those areas. She says, I want to know if we have more and more LGBTI persons coming forward and reporting cases of abuse, or do they fear of coming out forward, which I think probably it's about reporting the cases which we have touched on here. You see, hence I was saying, in the rural areas, we do not have much of legal services like courts. You will need to move to town for you to be able to access a court service. What would you say to this, dear? Because obviously the law is there, but implementing it seems to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I can't say whether the cases being reported are increasing. The cases are actually not too many.
Yes.
And also just to say that every part of the country is covered by a police station and is covered by a court. Yes, I think it's more difficult for people to be different in rural areas, but at least if there are problems, those should be reported to the police, and also to civil society organizations if they are really operating in those areas, to give support to people. Because relating to the earlier caller, I think the problem is that if everybody tells you are, as some of the callers have done, that you are wrong, you are a sinner, you're going to hell because of the way you are, obviously that's going to affect the way you look at yourself.
That's right.
And cause you to be depressed and maybe even to not want to live anymore.
Yeah. Another one, I think it's not even a question, it's just a view from Genugtig. We didn't get to know where they are chatting from. It's a social media that says, my view is that we have just laws and a horrid, bigoted, backwards culture. If only our constitution was a fact and not aspiration. What can we do as a society? Here's a hopeless person about our constitution, dear.
Look, I think you've got to see things they're positive about the constitution. They're saying that it's the problem is it's not practiced enough, as I would see it. They want it to be a fact and not an aspiration. We have moved a lot in the last 10 years, let's say.
Yes.
In terms of how we tolerate each other. I would say that attacks on LGBTI people would be the exception rather than the normality. So I think we are moving, and the way we will move further is by preaching tolerance, by preaching the fact that we all need to be able to live together and accept our differences. Most definitely.
Let's take the last three callers. I got Anonymous from Uppington. Anonymous from Uppington. Moving on, we going to Bochum in Limpopo. One of my colleagues come from Bochum, and she was saying she's going home. It just reminds me. Greet them there, all of them. Rosina.
Hey.
Le guy, Rosina.
Rohona guy.
How are on?
Nna ke rata go botšata ba gore na e ka ba ile gore batho ba mokhuto ke go ba gatelela ge mokgwetse le gore motho wa gay wa ipona go bjale ka wa mosadi go ganetse go tsena ka toilet ya banna a ke gore ke gay ya kere o nyako o ipona jwale ka mosadi kere so o nyako shumisha toilet ya basadi and then when in lesbian a ipona jwale ka monna o nyako shumisha toilet ya basadi gore ke ka ena mogao e ka ba le gore ge ba ganetswa o shumisha jana toilet ke go ba gatelela na go ba gona ge le gore ka mogano bona ga ba gatelele privacy ya batho ba bangwe na ka lebaka la gore ge o tsena le motho e le gay e go pela ga ka ipona bele ka mosadi o tano ba ile gore ke monna ge a tsena a šomiša toilet ya basadi o ba sa gatelele privacy ya basadi ba wena ge le lesbian a o šomiša toilet ya banna o ba sa gatelele privacy ya banna ba lena ka gore o bolela mannete gona e tla be le gore ge le gay a ke le gay ke banna e tla be le gore ke monna lesbian ke basadi e tla be le gore ke mosadi ge o šomiša toilet ya banna e le mosadi e le a šomiša toilet ya basadi e le monna e tla be e le gore o batla gatelela gona bona ge e le gore ga ba tlhaloganetšwa ba tla be e le gore ga ba gatelele privacy ya batho ba bangwe nna ke theleditše mogodi FM
ke lebogile thata Rosina
ke a leboga.
Moving on to Eastern Cape siyathetha ngoku Loyiso
Hello, Budi.
Niyaphila Loyiso?
Okay.
Okay.
Budi.
Hello Loyiso.
Yaphila Budi.
Ndiyaphila unjani Loyiso?
Yaphila mna Budi bendihalela ukuqonda. Ndinendaba ba abantu basezilalini asiziboni ezinto zitsho. Njani Budi? Apha kwezigay nezilesbian thina bahlala sizixelelwa kakuhle ngoku ingako thina singayi-understand. So bendiqala ukuqonda kokunoba uhleli naye apho uba ndoda sihleli naye kungaba mzamo nokusazisa thina abantu bahleli ezilalini ukuze le nto siyiqonde ngoba thina asi-understand ngoba abanye bayakwazi nokujika Bhuti ukanye mhlawumbe ebengusisi uzozijika bengubhuti uzijika ngento ithi mhlawumbe into zixabele nomuntu wakhe kanye nendoda ethile yakhe benayo boyfriend.
Ewe Bhuti.
Uyazijika ngoku ukuzijika kwakhe uzenza ulentuka zothina uzothandana nabanye ofisi yabona Bhuti. Kuba ndibeka kakuhle. Yenzeka kanjani lo nto uzijika ubukade uyindoda ubunini ungusisi kakade uqhindekile ngoku uzijika kanjani ikuthini lento?
Okay. Yikho konke lokho? Okay.
Uzikhayela lesihlike lesicebisa thina abahlali uba kwanye bahamba njani baya njani mhlawumbe ezilalini kanje ku-rural area baphelelaphi baphela berodini kuphela.
Enkosi tata. All right. 3 minutes after 7 o'clock. Butloiso DM is saying there's quite a big challenge in the rural areas generally. One being the awareness, the campaigns. Of course, I would believe that it is not much of the department's role to actually run campaigns, but of the organizations that are working with the department. But is there anything that the department is doing to actually promote? I know one of them is this particular radio show, but is there any other things that particularly looking at rural areas, because you see the Gautengs, the Western Capes and the Durbans are actually a bit more advanced in terms of access to information. When it comes to rural areas, it's a totally different story.
Look, we've got a lot of campaigns on human rights generally, giving out copies of the Bill of Rights and the preamble of the Constitution to all matric learners. So there are campaigns. We obviously are limited by resources, but we need to do more. And I think if people have got ideas of campaigns they'd like to see us run in particular areas, please approach us.
Most definitely. And lastly, DM, the facilities, Rosina was talking more about the facilities issues, where saying that isn't it violation of those who find themselves, who actually would perceive themselves as normal, using that toilet, using that gym, as we were saying, to say, okay, here I am, this toilet is written men, that other one is written women. And now it goes back to that third gender issue, to say these facilities, isn't it violation of those who actually find themselves feeling like men under normal perception of the society, or feeling like women under normal perception of the society, isn't it violation of their own rights?
Well, look,
it's rights versus rights here.
Yeah, I mean, all the rights are basically rights that need to be balanced up against each other. But I think people are going a bit overboard on the toilets issue. I mean, particularly women's toilets, there are cubicles,
yes.
So you don't see anything. Men's toilets with the urinals, if somebody's looking at you, well, they shouldn't. But on the toilets issue, I was speaking at one of the universities, and some people who were trans were saying they thought they didn't like the fact that or more effeminate men feel threatened when they go to a men's only toilet, that they might get beaten up by some guy, and so they actually wanted toilets for both men and women. The women, though, are then saying no, they don't want men in their toilets because they would feel threatened by those men. But I really question: is it such a big issue, or are people more imagining what could be?
Yeah. All right, 6 minutes after 7 o'clock. It's about time now. Just before I let you go, DM, is there maybe something that you'd like to highlight, actually, with regards to the rights of the LGBTI? We know that the rights to gay marriages has been approved at some point. We know that adoption is one of those. What are some of those positive aspects that has been achieved in securing tolerance and the awareness of the LGBTI persons' rights and all that from the department's perspective?
Look, from a legal perspective on LGBTI rights, I think we've largely we've got good laws in place, as I think somebody had said. The only legal gap is really, as far as I'm aware, is on hate crimes, which would be crimes against people on the basis of their group identity. So that would apply to LGBTI people as victims, but it would also apply to other groups. So if you get attacked as a Muslim because you're a Muslim, that could be a hate crime, and that's something that would be coming up. It's not specific to the LGBTI sector. So yeah, we've come far. I think the key issue is changing society's attitudes.
Yes,
and it's a simple thing: let other people be. Don't and the fact that we are all different as people enriches society. If we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. If the only sport that people played was soccer, that would be a bit boring. I mean, the fact that you can watch soccer, you can watch or play rugby, you can watch a range of sports, isn't that good? Aren't we actually benefiting from our differences? So we must let each other be. That's the main message I want to give.
Yeah. Unity in diversity. That's the Rainbow Nation of South Africa. We've been preaching this since 1994. Some of the people have actually even fought. They gave their lives and all this for us to be able to tolerate each other and have equal human rights under the sun. We apologize to all the other callers who are trying to get through. We know so much to talk about, so little time. But anyway, let's keep talking about issues that are actually eating our societies, our communities. And and in South Africa, it is a better place to live in. And we can even make it more better if we are able to tolerate each other. From me, Musoto Stone, thank you so much, DM, for leading us on this topic. And as always, quite a very open perspective for the communities.
Thanks very much, Musutu. And as this is the last program of the year, to wish you happy Christmas and to wish all the listeners a happy Christmas and hopefully time with their families.
Thank you so much, sir. And leperile re tla bonana gape in the next year. Re lebogile go nna le thetso ya gago, mme re lebogetse gape le ditshwaelo tsa gago and all your questions. Thank you very much, and it's a good night.